Hey everybody, welcome to TMI Live. Too Much Information with Moondog, where we go over the videos I've posted this week, answering your questions about them, as well as get your feedback on some future projects that I'm working on. And let's get started here. Just want to plug our longtime sponsor here, Aura.com, which is a online cybersecurity service that I use to help protect me when I'm on the web. They've got a slew of services all bundled into one. Things like VPN, virtual private networks, fraud alerts, spam blockers, and they include into that $1 million of identity theft insurance, because that's the biggest concern a lot of us have, is having our identity stolen or having people claim to be us and open credit cards or who knows what, or get access to our information. In fact, I just got yet another letter in the mail of, just a week ago that told me that my data may or may not have been compromised, along with a hack to their system. And it's just becoming so common that we get these letters from these companies that get their systems hacked, that our information could be out there, and it is out there. A lot of our information already is. And one ways we can get our information off of the dark web is to get it off of these data brokers. These are companies that buy and sell our personal information, and they do that. And you can request to have them removed from these companies, but you have to go through them individually, one at a time, and find out, one, do they have your information, and two, you have to formally request to have it removed. It's an arduous process, and there are hundreds of data brokers out there. But Aura has a service, just a one click, and they will send a formal request to all these data brokers to have your information removed. And I got mine removed from over 30 different data brokers. So just for that service alone, I think they're totally worth it. And here's the thing, you can try them out for free. I'm giving you 14 days of a free trial of Aura, which includes that data removal service. So just try them out for 14 days and have yourself removed from 30 different data brokers or more. Actually, you know what? I think I might even have I might do a contest at some point just to see how many people, who gets their information removed from the most data brokers if you use a data removal service. That might be an interesting thing to try out. But just go to aura.com/moondog and you can sign up and get a free trial from me. So go to aura.com/moondog and let me know how that works for you. All right. Now, I give away a prize on every episode, and today's prize, let me just show you what that is. It is from Keesler Police Supply. This is their scope and binocular cloth. It's a cleaning cloth, and I got this at SHOT Show. Well, I'm giving away 3 of these today to a winner, 3 winners out there. All you have to do is put in the special word into the side chat with a hashtag and the special word. In this case, it is a mystery brand, and that mystery brand may not be that much of a mystery to you, but for those who are logged in now, here's your clue. This is their logo. Just type in this case, not the full word, just the 2-letter initials of this company, and put it in the side chat, hashtag the 2 initials, and you'll be entered into the contest. So for those of you who've joined in early, and a lot of you have, thanks for doing that. You get this extra clue. And for 1957 Porsche Speedster, make sure you have a hashtag in front of that. All right, so let's get into our new videos here. I posted up a video for the new Phoenix GL19R, and this is a over 1,000 lumen weapon light that clips onto just about every pistol out there, modern pistol. I tried it out on my Glock 19 and Glock 17, fit great. What makes this one a little bit different from the other ones is, one, this is their plain and simple model, which I love. It's just on and off, doesn't have any other modes, doesn't have a low, high that you could accidentally cycle through. It just, once you flip that switch, it turns on, flip the switch again, and it turns off. And keep it simple. When you're in a sort of life-threatening situation, you don't want to complicate things. Super bright and super reliable, and it has a user replaceable battery, and the function switch are physical levers. So there's a lot to be said about analog switches and the simplicity of it. And this one, you can adjust for the distance between your rail and the front of your handguard by the length of the levers, and you can swap out the levers just uses a small, I believe, a hex or a torque screws. You can unscrew the levers and put in longer levers. Let me show you just a little short from that video here. This is the Phoenix GL19R. I fully recharged the battery before starting the test and let the unit run for about 10 seconds to warm up the battery chemistry. As you can see, my testing rig is not a NASA-designed scientific instrument, but I have calibrated it to a reliable 100 lumen light source. So I was getting 1022 lumens from my test. We're taking a look at the beam pattern from about 10 feet away. You can see a very intense hot spot, about 2.5 feet wide at this distance, and you can see the edge of the beam in the hallway. We're taking a look at the beam throw here. Quite a bit of distance. We can easily see the telephone pole there 120 feet away. So I don't know if you can tell there, really intense bright beam on this light. Really cool. Came from Phoenix, and that's what I posted on my 2A channel. And I got a chance to see that earlier on this year when I was at SHOT Show, and that's what I posted on my Moondog Go channel. My booth visit to Phoenix lights, and let me share with.
So first one we're going to look at is the GL23R. This is a white light with a green laser. And the way you operate this light is just a simple tap to momentary on, or you flip down for full on. You have a lockout for off. You can switch the toggle to white light only, white light with green laser, or green laser only.
Oh, fully analog.
And again, just a simple tap to activate or flip down for constant on. It also comes with 3 different switch sets, which allow you to customize the switches to your grip. So if you needed to sit farther back, we have a longer one, or we have some that have been down lower for a lower grip.
So there you go. What I like about just the simplicity of a physical toggle switch is that you have that both tactile and visual confirmation that you turned it on, other than, of course, the light itself. But sometimes, of course, the battery goes off. The downside of a lot of more with weapon lights that use a silicone covered button is that you never know if you're pressing hard enough unless you has that little tactile clicky. But this one you can't go wrong with just the flip switch, and you're good to go. And yeah, it was. You can get a sense of how bright it was when I was recording in that hallway. Yeah, I'm surprised that it didn't catch fire. It is pretty bright light, for sure. And Phoenix is, they're one of the most durable high performance flashlights out there. So yeah, definitely. Obama Dad said, "I must admit, Phoenix is a step up from Olight." I agree in terms of performance and just ruggedness and build quality. Not there's anything wrong with Olight. Come on, I carry an Olight as my EDC right now. I think they're great stuff, but Phoenix is just a bit more from my feedback from some my brother who's in law enforcement. He's put his Phoenix light through a lot more punishment than the Olights that he's owned, and so yeah, that is a sample of one, by the way, but yeah, it is a testament to its durability and reliability. And on my Moondog Go channel, I posted up a video, the full video visit of my visit to the World Trade Center 1 building. And there is a observation deck in the middle, not just the one that's public all the way to the very top, but there is a sky lobby, is what they call it, in the middle section of the building that is really only accessible to tenants of the building and their guests. And I happen to be a guest of a tenant of the building. So they took me up there and this is just an amazing view of New York. And let me just share. It's a pretty short video, so I'll share the whole thing with you. Moondog here. We are at the Sky Lobby in the Freedom Tower in New York City. This is a mid-height lobby area for people who actually work here in the building. This isn't usually available to the general public, but you do get some very epic views of the city even from this height. Hey, I'd like to know what you thought of this. So yeah, it was a great view. It was a little bit of an overcast day, but you could see all the way up into Upper Manhattan, into Midtown. You could see great view of the Rockefeller Center and the Empire State Building north of where we were at, as well as the Hudson River on the left. So amazing view. I'm surprised though. This video, which is on my Moondog Go channel, only has 21 views, and I'm wondering, is it because of the thumbnail that I have? And let me just bring that back up to the stage. So that's the thumbnail I put up there. Is it just not enticing? Is the headline kind of lame? Maybe it is. And that sort of leads us into, this is sort of a little pre of my thumbnail this section. So if you guys have a better idea for a headline for this thumbnail, please let me know in the comments on the side chat right now. And just getting back to some of the comments we have here, Tim Mooney says, 300 lumens is bright in tight quarters. Indeed. If you get much higher and in the distance in that hallway, that it was only 10 feet away. So that's as a standard distance. And many homes don't have much interior distance much past that. So if you have an overly bright flashlight, you could often just end up blinding yourself and you're losing night vision. So yeah, there's just this huge demand or want by a lot of people for the numbers. They want the flashlight that is over 1,000 lumens, 2,000, whatever lumens. It seems like that sells for a lot of folks, but they don't realize that you don't necessarily want, from a practical standpoint, you don't want something too bright because you end up blinding yourself. Hey, Vanessa and Bamdad also said, where were all the trees? Oh, that's right. It's in New York. Yeah, New York City. There's plenty of trees in New York City. If you know where to look. If you go up just past these buildings here, you're in Central Park, and that is Tree City. You can walk around in parts of Central Park and not realize you're in Manhattan just because the trees are covering everything. But yeah, it is the concrete jungle for a good reasons why they call it that. It is just city building after building after building. And it's just like if you took your downtown area of whatever city you're in and every other city around you, just slammed it into an 11-mile strip of land, that is Manhattan. It's just downtown after downtown and after downtown. And oh, by the way, that's where we get the term downtown, because New York, Manhattan is roughly north-south orientation. So the city, the business part of the city started in the southern part, which is where Wall Street is. And then another tidbit, Wall Street, there was originally a wall, sort of a fort wall to protect that part of New Amsterdam from, threats. And so everything north of that wall was just all farmland. But anyway, so that's where we get the north and south orientation. So downtown, literally south, and uptown. That's where we get those terms from. All right. So let me see here if we have any comments on. Oh, Vanessa says, I have my eye on a 15,000 lumen flashlight. Yeah, they're out there. That is crazy bright though. 15,000 lumens. I mean, it's perfectly fine if you're trying to, hunt and flood an area and do like a scan that way. But yeah, 1,500 indoors is going to be more trouble than it's worth, I think. Vanessa also said, I lived next door to the Lou Gehrig statue in the Bronx for a time. Oh, very nice. Yeah. That's in Bronx is where the New York Yankee Stadium is for everybody out there. And Tim Mooney says, I'd like to see a heat sink. Yeah. For a 15,000 lumen light, practically the whole light is the heat sink. So there you go. And hey, we have a visitor from Australia. How are you? It's got to be what? Is it the middle of the night or the middle of the morning over there? So, but thanks for joining us from Australia. And yeah, for 15,000 lumen light, that's gonna have a need to have a pretty hefty battery. All right, so I'll just throw this back out there. If you think is a better headline for this thumbnail, please let me know in the comments. We'll move on to the actual thumbnail this question, which is this. Now, this is exciting. I'm going to be posting up my comparison video of the new Athlon Rangecraft. This is the hot video that everybody has been wanting to get since they debuted it at SHOT Show earlier this year. And at the time, it's because they had estimated they were going to be launching this at a price point of $350, which is not a small amount of change, mind you, but it is like half the price, or almost half the price, of the Garmin Zero, which is the hot mini chrono that everybody was buying because they were so compact, and you can just set it up right in front of on your table. Wasn't that huge panel that the Lab Radar was, and it was a relatively easy to use chronograph. Well, Athlon came out with their Rangecraft Velocity Pro chrono that has pretty much all the features of the Garmin with better ergonomics in terms of being able to choose what you want with it has actually more buttons than the Garmin, and it comes in at a lower price point. But the thing is, they didn't know back in January that there was going to be the Trump tariffs coming, and that delayed all the shipments by a month and also increased the prices for all of the products. Plus, I don't know what other tariffs fees were added to that or not, but it went from $350 to $399, which is not that huge of a jump. It's not like it was double the price, but people were commenting on my video about this, that they're acting butthurt about the fact that, oh yeah, it's still not out and that's bait and switch. They're raising the prices. Come on, guys. It's not their fault. They didn't know Trump was going to slap tariffs on China, and China. Yeah. Anyway, but it's finally out. They released it, I think, last week. People were already posting on my video that they got theirs, which is great. And some of them even got it for the original price because they ordered it back in January or February from like Midway and other places. So they got it at the lower price, and they finally got their unit. And I got mine last week. So I did a comparison review, an in-depth review video of it, which I'll be posting up this weekend. So let me know what you think would be a good headline. Obviously I was thinking I'm just going to put Athlon versus Garmin, but maybe you can think of a better headline for them. So let me just go through some of the comments that were posted here. For less money. I wasn't sure if that's a comment or if that's a suggestion for a headline, but that's what Porsche Speedster wrote. And Bamadad said, wonder what they sell for. I think that's for what I wonder what they sell for in China. Good question. I can only speak from looking at buying airsoft products in Hong Kong back in the day versus what they were priced here at airsoft stores. And I was surprised at how much cheaper they were in Hong Kong. But again, it depends on where you're buying it from. When I was looking at buying airsoft stuff in Manila in the Philippines, it was much more expensive than buying it in the US. But I guess a lot of those at the time, a lot of those airsoft products were being made in Hong Kong or mainland China. So internally, the prices were lower because of that. They don't have the extra markup of having it imported into the United States. And I bought it, and I brought it in as a personal item, which I'm allowed to because it was under $10,000 in overall value. So yeah, I bought a couple of red dots back in the day in Hong Kong that were, I thought at the time, were relatively cheap. So yeah, maybe they're cheaper. Maybe the Rangecraft is cheaper, but I don't think you're going to find this much cheaper. Like if you're going to just buy it off of AliExpress or Temu or whatever. Tim Mooney says, I heard Garmin is dropping their prices because of this chrono. I wouldn't be surprised at all, just because of you're getting the same thing in terms of the features for less of a price. They're going to have to, they're going to have to drop the prices, I think, but we'll see. Remains to be seen. Hillbilly says China tariffs are fixed thanks to China backing down. Yeah, well, that's what we hear. Like, technically, it's only 90 days. The Trump administration announced that they're going to bring it down for 90 days until they actually work out some sort of deal. Hopefully, knock on wood, it does become a permanent but fix. But yeah, it's a fair point. And Jay Delta says, I'm waiting on my Rangecraft coming in June. Good. I know I heard from finally got heard back from my guy at Athlon, and he said, yeah, they're really struggling just to keep up with their back orders. So for those of you who didn't order it yet, you're going to have to wait in line behind all the folks who pre-ordered them, and even from just last month. So better than the Zero. That's a good one there. So Porsche Speedster wrote a headline, better than the Zero. Which is a good question I have for you guys. Do you know the Garmin as the Garmin or the Zero? So that may also affect the headline here. Vanessa Kitty says, I use the Garmin Glow 2 GPS receiver with my electronics while riding my recumbent trike. And I got to ask you, why do you prefer the Garmin Glow over, say, just clipping on your phone? Because that was the thing about Garmin, is everybody thought that their business was going to just go belly up because of the proliferation of GPSs on phones, but that didn't end up being the case because they are much more rugged, and there's a lot of places and times where you don't want to be taking your phone out, even if you have a clip, just because of the risk of damage to your phone potentially. Like if you are doing mountain biking or whatever, I would rather clip on a Garmin for my GPS than clip on my phone and accidentally go over a rock or hit a rock, and then my phone just falls off of the side of a trail, which I would rather lose the Garmin than my phone. So I can see that. And Hillbilly says, you can buy a new iPhone for super cheap overseas for years. Yeah, you could buy a lot of phones out there. The only downside to buying phones overseas is that if there is a warranty issue that you have to send it back, sometimes they won't honor it because the warranty only covers you in the United States and for those product lines. So they do have it by serial number where a product was sold in which region. So I've had that come up sometimes when I bought photo equipment, either camera bodies or lenses, is that the model that I bought on eBay wasn't covered under the manufacturer's warranty because they said, well, this is the overseas model. But that is a risk that you should be aware of when you're buying any electronics overseas. And Vanessa Kitty says, I need to buy some hand tools from Singapore, but I'm waiting until the fall. Why from Singapore? Could you let us know there, Vanessa? Why would you buy them from Singapore? Do you regularly visit Singapore? Maybe that's the reason why. All right. Wow. Okay. We got some more Garmin. And Portia says Rangecraft is faster. Now, this is something I did find out in my video, that it's faster in two different ways. One is that the numbers that I was getting. Oh, okay. Sorry about that, folks. That was I forgot that my camera on my MacBook Pro has that sort of emote feature. So because I put two fingers up, that was for numbers, but it caused it to make balloons show up. But anyway, so Rangecraft is faster. What I found out about the Rangecraft is the numbers I was getting versus the Garmin were slightly faster higher in terms of the velocity that I was reading, but also it calculates the speed at about a fraction, like a half a second, a quarter of a second faster than the Garmin. And where that does make a difference is when you're doing rapid fire. Adam Croft says, okay, got to start work. Have a great one, kids. Okay, Adam, thanks for joining us. G'day, mate. And Mover Garmin and Lab Radar. It is, much easier to use than the Lab Radar. Well, both of them are, to be honest. The Garmin Glow works quite well. As Vanessa says, the Garmin Glow works quite well in many obstructive environments versus the phone because of the phone signal. Okay, That's a good reason. And she also says the Garmin Glow holds the GPS coordinates in the future without losing it. There's another good reason why you'd want one. And Dad says, when I was doing missionary work in East Africa, if everyone there had the latest iPhone, isn't that crazy? But yeah, there's a lot of places in the world that actually seem that more people have the newer phones than we do, than folks out here. Vanessa says that her brother uses the Garmin as tractor trailer to maintain signal receiving. There's a good point. And Vanessa says that she's a leather maker tools from a maker in Singapore. Oh, okay. So artisan. Yeah, that makes sense. Some places you can't, that's where you go where the artisans are. Troy says Garmin did it first. Plus Garmin probably doesn't have the back order for months. This is true. If you're willing to pay $200 more, then definitely go with Garmin. I'm not going to knock Garmin. The Garmin Zero worked really well. And yeah, it's fine, but I'd rather save $200. So there you go. I like this one from J Delta, the Garminator. That's great. I like that. And you know what? I should take a screenshot of that. I forgot to take let me take a screenshot of that headline and there. And Tim Mooney says, I'm still using the Shooting Crony F1 that I haven't used it yet. So, all right, let's move on. So the mystery word for our prizes, which are the Kiesler binocular and scope cleaning cloths that we're giving away today. The mystery clue, the clue for the mystery word here is this company is one of the largest corporations in the U.S. It traces its origins to 1889 and with Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison started a company, Edison, I think Edison Power, Edison Electric, which eventually morphed into this company. And since 1955, it has been the largest builder of nuclear power plants in the U.S., this company. And the company has electric in its name, but for this contest, please enter the 2-letter initials to enter the contest. So type in 2 letters with a hashtag 2 letters, whatever those letters may be, to correctly get into the contest. So type it into the side chat right now. And doesn't have to be capitalized, by the way, but the 2-letter initials of this company. And one of those words in the name is electric. Okay. Now let's get down to the rabbit hole here. We have a special guest today, and it is my buddy Gizzard Gary. And many of you already know Gizzard Gary from his show Foul Territory, as well as being a guest panelist, and also his many channels out there, including Gizzard Gary, the aforementioned Gizzard Gary, as well as Gary Reviews, and his new channel, which I'm sure we'll be talking about. It's called Boomer Listens, where he listens to contemporary songs, and as a boomer, he gives his input and his reactions to them. But what many of you may not know is that Gary used to work in the nuclear industry as a plant, as a technician over at the nuclear plant in Burlington, Kansas. So I want to welcome today my buddy Gizzard Gary. Gary, how are you, buddy?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So tell me a little bit of you're born and raised in Kansas.
Yes, right here in Burlington, where I live now. Yes.
And where did you? And is there a college, university? Where did you train?
Emporia State University.
Awesome.
It's about 40 miles away from here.
And all of your family is still in Burlington?
Well, I'm about all that's left. My parents are both deceased, and
God bless them.
Yes. I have a sister that lives in the Kansas City area and another sister that lives in Lockhart, Texas, which is in the San Antonio area.
Oh, that's a bit of a drive then.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm really all that's left in this area of my family.
Did many of your, aside from your family, did many of your friends stay local, or did a lot of them?
This is a small town of about 2,500 people. So the idea was when I was growing up is if you had any kind of ambition, you got yourself to the city and got a job there. So the only ones of us that stayed were the ones that were lucky enough or wanted to pursue work at the nuclear power plant. If you
It-
were lucky enough to get on there, and there's a lot of competition for that. So, of course, back then it was just under construction.
I was going to ask you, when did they build it?
They started building it in the late 70s,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't completed. It didn't go into power production until 1985.
Oh, so that's
So
quite a ways. When did you graduate college?
I didn't graduate college. I
Oh,
was a dropout,
you,
but I graduated high school in 1978.
okay, so
I started working at the plant in 1980.
Okay, so there it was still under construction when you started working there. Oh, okay.
It is a construction site. There's a lot of dirt and construction workers, cranes, stuff like that. It wasn't anywhere near what it is today. So completely different environment and about 5,000 people working there. So it's like a small city. It really
Absolutely.
was. Yeah.
I mean, they're not, aside from the ones they put into subs, a nuclear plant isn't a small thing.
No, not at all.
So did you always want to get into the technical side of things, or was it just a matter of, you happen to be born in the right place at the right time that you got to start working in at a nuke plant?
Well, it's kind of a roundabout story. I moved down to my sister's down in Texas after dropping out of college, thinking, well, maybe I'll start my life down there, and go for something completely different. And that lasted about 6 months. I moved back home, to which my father said, well, if you're going to live here, you're going to have a job. He said, you ought to try applying out at that nuclear plant. I hear they're hiring people. So I didn't think I had a chance, but I went out. I actually called and they said, okay, we'll send you an application and a self-addressed stamped envelope, and you can fill that out and return it. Well, I did. And 2 days later, I got a call to come out for an interview, and I was hired on the spot for the interview. So I guess I just got lucky, but I started out as clerical staff.
Oh, okay. You didn't get into the IT side till later.
Well, I worked out there 42 years, and the first 21 was in basically document control and records management. So we had, if you can imagine, lots of engineering drawings of the plant that had to be maintained, plus procedures and everything else. And you had a whole department whose responsibility it was to maintain all this paperwork. So we would print the drawings, we would maintain all the field copies and stuff like that. And then the records. When you have a nuclear power plant, you have a number of things that have to be retained for the life of the plant.
Oh yeah, and like in triplicate or whatever, whatever the crime was.
Actually had a vault that stuff had to be maintained in, temperature controlled, humidity controlled vault. And we had certain procedures that you had to follow. Later on, as technology evolved, we started microfilming said records.
Oh, okay.
We actually did our own microfilming, and of course now it's electronic imaging. And so that we went from doing everything paper to microfilm to now it's virtually all electronic. And I did that for like I say, my first half of my career, 21 years before I was able to get myself into an IT job.
So what made you decide to go into IT? Just your own sort of personal interest in computers and technology, or was there just...
was pretty much it. When I started out there, we didn't really, in 1980, there was virtually no computers out there other than the payroll computer was probably the only thing out there. But as you got into the 90s, they started having a few personal computers out there. And then we got the mainframe. So you had all the little individual, units that could access the mainframe. and I just seemed to have an affinity for that stuff. Uh, I I was just a quick learner, and I quickly became the person in my department who was, every department kind of has a go-to guru when
Yeah.
it comes to that stuff. You don't have to call the help desk, just go see Gary because he can help you. He can help you fix this stuff. So after a while, I kind of got a reputation for being able to solve problems. And so I kind of got the attention of people in IT. But the problem was I didn't have the degree. So I had to go take some classes and get a little bit of background.
Did you just have
So
to do the certification, but did they actually make you have to go and do like night classes to get to finish out your
no,
associates and things?
not necessarily. They just wanted to know you weren't some guy coming off the street, that you actually knew what you were talking about. So, and I applied several times and was turned down before they finally took me in. So I had to, I didn't just tap on the door. I had to kind of beat on it a little bit to get in there. So it was tough, but they finally took me.
That's good. Now, um, what was the first kind of computer systems, or was it just general IT and sort of problem solving, or were you involved in? Because I remember, I'm old enough to remember those first computers, and there really wasn't a lot. The problem really was the software. And you either had to have custom built software, and at that point you're doing just mostly data entry, but there really wasn't like it was only later that they had like VisiCalc and spreadsheet software that you could actually start customizing and doing a lot more things with computers, and it would make sense to incorporate them into a lot of businesses, or in your case, a nuclear plant, but at the very least, the administrative side.
Right.
Yeah.
I started IT in 2001. In fact, it was right after 9/11.
Oh, so much later. Yeah.
Yeah, the actual meeting in my old department when they were supposed to tell everybody that I was leaving to go into IT was scheduled to be on September the 11th, 2001. That
Oh,
meeting never took place because they sent us home early that day. So, and it was the following Monday that I started in IT. So it's not hard for me to remember when that happened. But we did all kinds of support, from helping people with Microsoft Windows, because we were a Microsoft Windows NT environment at the time, and stuff like that, with Novell networks and stuff like that. So we'd help people with general issues logging in and stuff like that, from hardware troubleshooting. Can't get this to come on, stuff like that. Occasionally we would have to actually go to the customer's location if we couldn't solve the problem over the phone. But that, and then we did have our share of special software that, is just stuff nuclear power plants would have and stuff like that, which we had to become proficient in well enough to help people, because, they had their specific issues and stuff like that. So most of our work was pretty much something any IT person would deal with, but then there was stuff that only nuclear power people would deal with. So we kind of had to be jacks of all trades. And the person on the other end of that phone could be anywhere from a mechanic or a janitor who very seldom ever logs onto the computer to, let's say, an engineer who's on there all the time. And as the years progressed, we had more and more electronic processes and stuff like that. So it was kind of, again, I got to see IT evolve just like I got to see records evolve, from the very simple to the more and more complex, to where when I retired, pretty much all the work out there was being done electronically. So if your computer wasn't working correctly, you couldn't get your job done. And so IT support basically helped people to do their jobs. So it's part of productivity.
absolutely. Now, as you're mentioning, there are some things that you would do that would the average IT professional or technician wouldn't be doing. Like, did you ever have to like get suited up and go into where the actual plant is?
Oh yeah.
Where the reactor is?
Well, in the reactor, but pretty close to it from time to time, because we did have computers that were located in that area, because when people worked in that area, from time to time, they might have to access a computer system. So we had a few, not a lot, but we had a few strategically placed computers out there that people could access when
That's
they
what
did their
I was.
jobs.
You know, I don't, since I don't know. The only thing I know about nuclear reactors is what you see in movies and TV, right? So I always imagine that there's like some screen next to the glowing pool of blue that shows you the flow or whatever, the pressure. And so I'm gonna wonder, somebody had to install that. Somebody has to, like, figure out if, hey, my monitor isn't working. Somebody has to go back in there and install and you know jiggle some cables or whatever.
Well,
Would that
when
be you?
my department, now we had other people who were primarily hardware installation and stuff. Like, they were the people who would run the cable, the people who would, if you had a camera, they'd go up and mount the cameras and stuff like that. They would actually carry the physical computers to the location and install them. That was a union activity, so we weren't supposed to carry computers from place to place, because we had specialized people who did that.
Union rules, can't pick it up, can't touch it.
But I do want to throw in that at a nuclear plant, every 18 months, they have to shut down for about 30 days for refueling.
Oh, that often? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, about every 18 months. And so when they do that, they would basically open up all the hatches to the containment area so you could get equipment in and out of there. So you had a great big hatch on the outside of the dome that's got a big concrete cover that slides open. And there's about a 20 or 30 foot circle there with a hatch that can open up to get, cranes could get big equipment in and out of there. And they would go in and do maintenance. You had certain things that could only be done while the plant was shut down. And so they would schedule those jobs while they were refueling the reactor. So you can imagine, they say that a nuclear power plant, every day they're offline, it costs their owners $1 million. So they want to keep the length of this outage as short as possible. So you would be working 24 hours a day. So IT would be put on shifts so we could cover 24 hours a day. So where we would normally cover the phones for maybe a 10-hour day, we would have a night shift come in. So we'd have to split our crews up. We'd work extra hours. We'd work weekends we wouldn't normally work. And we would put extra computer equipment in the containment area, because you had crews working in there. And you also had cameras, because the staff wanted to have cameras everywhere so they could keep track of these crews to make sure they were safe. So we'd have to go in and run extra cameras during the refueling outages.
Oh, so those are just temporary cameras?
Yeah.
Okay.
Put them in at the start of the outage, and then when you're getting ready to start the plant back up, we'd have to go in and take everything out real quick. And as we were talking earlier, when you have equipment in the proximity of a radiation area, oftentimes it can't be removed from said radiation area. So we would literally have those storage containers like you see on ships and stuff like that. We would literally have some of those strategically placed in the area with our computer equipment that we used during the outages, because you couldn't take it out of there. So we would literally take that stuff, put it in a storage container, which is still inside the radiological area.
Okay.
And that container could sit there, but yet we'd have that equipment out of the area. So every time an outage, we'd have to crack that container open, get our stuff out, install it. And then at the end of the outage, put it all back. Yeah. And it's a lot of work, especially for our hardware technicians, because they had to take all that cable back out, and stuff like that. So,
and when they had to install all that stuff, were they all like, suited up and everything? Because that's a whole other difficulty level, and having to install things when you've got gloves on.
Yeah, you get used to it, but you got 2 sets of gloves.
Oh, yeah.
Well, 3 technically.
3. Okay.
when you suit on an RCA suit, or what we call Tyvek suit, you basically had a cotton glove that went over first, and then you had a rubber glove that went over that. Well, now if you needed to lift anything heavy or do any kind of, heavy work, you'd put leather gloves over the top of that. So there's your third set of gloves.
Right. Yeah. Because you don't want to risk any tearing of the tie.
And then on your feet, you'd have cotton go over your shoes, and then rubber overshoes to go over the cotton shoes. And then you've got this big, what we call a Tyvek suit. If you can imagine looking like a Michelin man, that's about what it is. It's a white plastic suit with a zipper. And then the cuffs are, you put everything on so that the cuffs go over the gloves. They go over your shoe covers and stuff like that. So basically it's airtight. And the only opening is, where your head would be.
Okay.
And depending on how contaminated the area was, you may or may not have to wear a hood. But usually we didn't have to. You could just walk around in your hard hat and stuff like that. They mainly were concerned with stuff getting on your clothing and on the main part of your
just
body.
From contact.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they kind of figured you weren't going to hit stuff with your head, so you're probably pretty safe.
Not if you're not if you can attend that. That's good, because having to wear any kind of respirator is a whole nother level of difficulty and annoyance. That's for sure.
Yeah. I never had to do that. Now there were very contaminated areas that certain people had to access, and they were heavily restricted, of course. And yes, depending on those, you might have to wear a respirator and a hood and be limited. Okay, you can only be in this area 15 minutes and you have to leave.
Oh, right, because of the actual exposure.
Right. Now, so you would actually have, the crews would plan ahead of time. They'd actually get together and have a pre-entry meeting where it's kind of like sports. It's like, okay, we're going to go in, you're going to go here, you're going to go here. It'd be all planned out because you couldn't make mistakes.
Yeah, and you don't have time to dawdle and just figure things out while you're there, because you're getting exposed.
So you would plan to work ahead of time. Yeah.
That's what people don't really appreciate, the fact that that people who work in any reactor or any nuclear facility, they don't take things lightly, and it's just not like a willy-nilly kind of thing. And and this is not a dig on anybody else at any other work site, but there's you can get by with just sort of winging things just at a factory or any other workplace, but not not in a nuke plant.
And another thing we do during refueling outages, if you have a couple minutes, is sometimes we would be asked to do extra jobs because there were extra things to do during the outage. It didn't happen. So they'd ask for volunteers from different departments. Hey, would you go? We had people that would do a fire watch, where basically you would sit in a chair and watch a certain area to make sure fires don't break out, where they're doing welding, for example.
Oh, okay. I was going to wonder it makes sense.
Or in my case, one of the jobs I got volunteered for this job, but thanks to my boss, but it was basically I can't think of the terminology, but my job was to be around an area. I worked around a spent fuel pool, which is where all the refueling happens.
Yeah.
And they would rope that off, and you only allowed certain people in or out of there, and you had to log every person who went in and out of there, every piece of equipment they took in there. If you took a roll of tape, it had to go on a log. Why? Because at the end of the outage, you had to reconcile all those logs. Everything you took in had to come out. So that if it was something loose, like a pin or something like that, those were hard to keep track of. Anything that's clear wasn't allowed to be in there, because what happens if it falls in the water?
Oh, right. Yeah.
Somebody has to go in and get it if you can't see it. Yeah, that's fun to send divers into contaminated water. So yeah, that was an interesting job. And of course it had a little bit of exposure to it because you were pretty close to, at that point, where the fuel's stored. So It wasn't bad or anything. Yeah, FME. There you go. Tim Mooney's got it. I was an FME monitor. Okay. So that was a certain training you had to go through on that. And we were only allowed to do 2-hour shifts on that. But yeah, it was hot. That's another thing about wearing those protective suits is it's either really cold or really hot inside that plant. And you can't do anything about it. So you're wearing a plastic suit. If it's 90 degrees in there, you're going to be uncomfortable. You can't get a drink. If it's cold, you're just going to have to suffer, So,
okay. Now, is it the drinking just because you don't want to risk contamination?
Right.
Right. And so you couldn't eat as
well.
No
eating or drinking in the RCA at all, or use of tobacco or any such. In fact, you weren't even allowed to have that stuff anywhere near there. The basic rule was you couldn't take anything in there that didn't need to be in there. So you didn't stick pens in your pocket. You didn't, have Kleenex or anything in your pockets or anything, because any of that stuff's potentially stuff that'd have to be thrown away. Okay. So if you needed it in there, they kept it in there. So if you needed a pen, there were pens that were strategically placed in, kind of like we did our computer equipment. We would have certain things. So just kind of stuff that the general public probably doesn't even understand, because it's unique to nuclear power pretty much.
So when you had to go in, you basically had to take everything off. Like if you have a wedding ring or your watch, everything else.
No jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
No jewelry, anything like that. Basically, I would go in, take necklace off or whatever. I would take my street clothes off and I would wear scrubs. You could go to the warehouse and get a couple sets of scrubs if you were a rad worker. We usually kept a few in our desk, and you'd change out of your street clothes into scrubs and wear those over to the RCA where you would get dressed out and stuff like that, which was fun when it was wintertime and it was like 15 degrees and you're having to walk 100 yards over to the plant in a set of scrubs. It's cold. Scrubs are cold.
Yeah, that doesn't offer much insulation, that's for sure.
But you get used to it. You kind of had an appreciation for doctors and nurses after you wear them things around for a while.
Now, did you, at least when you're wearing the scrubs, were you wearing a Tyvek over that, or you that's something you'd put on
once you got checked into the radiological controlled area, or the RCA? You had to go in and check. They had to make sure that you had authorization to be in there, that you're trained, blah blah blah. And then once you go through that door, then there was basically stacks and stacks of protective clothing that you could put on.
So you didn't even have the extra layer of thin Tyvek while you're walking
over. No. You put that on when you got there.
Gotcha.
Because when you exit the area, all that stuff has to be removed. There's basically a step-off pad and stuff like that, and you have to, in the correct order, remove all your protective clothing, because it goes into disposal bins. And you had to remove it carefully. And all that stuff. Then you stepped off onto the clean pad, and then you exited and went through the monitors and stuff like that. So no, you couldn't wear those out, because they were basically designed. They told me once the material they're made out of, it can be dissolved by a fairly common solvent.
Oh yeah, like acetone or something.
Right. Which means it doesn't have to be stored in a where they store radioactive waste, because it reduces the level of waste that comes from a plant.
Now, Tim Mooney says one guy screwed up about a fluke network tester. Don't know what that is, but maybe you know what he's referring to.
It's a meter.
Okay, but a fluke is a brand, or is it
brand?
Just
yes.
Okay. Now, did you ever get dinged for messing up a protocol and have to get sprayed down or anything like that?
I never had anything like that. Now, sometimes you would mess up when you're taking off your protective clothing. If you do things in the wrong order, sometimes you would step off the clean step-off pad accidentally because sometimes you're bouncing on one leg, to take
Oh, right,
off
right,
your,
right. Yeah.
your boots and stuff.
Yeah.
If you slipped and your foot stepped off into the dirt area, then the monitors nearby would have to come wipe your shoe off. It's like, yep, you can't step on the clean pad with that dirty foot. We got to wipe you down. It happened from time to time, but you had to be careful. But usually what would happen is when you exit, you'd go through the portal monitor, and it would scan every part of your body from your head to your toe. You'd stick your arms out in this thing, and it would alarm, and it would tell you, where, if there was any contamination. And just about the only times it ever happened to me, it was my hard hat. For some reason, depending on the time of year, the airborne, there's a radioactive gas sometimes in the RCA, which normally it's not a problem, but certain plastic materials it adheres itself to.
Oh, okay.
It's the reason they don't like you wearing polyester clothing or anything like that, because it tends to attract.
But isn't Tyvek plastic?
Yeah, but it gets disposed of.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, you're taking that off. The main reason for the Tyvek suit's to keep the radiation off you.
Got it.
Right. So, yeah, Tim Mooney said a coworker's shoe set off the portal monitor and they had to leave it with RP. Yeah, if they can't clean it, then you lose that shoe.
That's another reason not to bring your good stuff with you.
Yeah, we normally had extra clothing, extra set of shoes that we'd wear over there. Normally not the shoes you wore to work, because, yeah, it's pretty bad if you lose your street clothes. We'd have people wear their street clothes under their protective clothing, which you can do if you want to. But if you lose it, you're not wearing them home, so you might be wearing scrubs home.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And yeah, they're not super comfortable, those scrubs, and they don't quite fit in the right places as well as your street clothes. That's for sure. Hey, by the way, thank you for sending these photos. I just want to share some of the photos for those of you who are watching this, to the folks out there. Let me bring this up full size. There we go. Can you tell us a little bit about the photos you have here? Who's that guy with a fro over in the top left there?
That was a 28-year-old me back in 1988 when I submitted a safety slogan and was receiving a $50 savings bond from the safety director.
And what was the slogan? Do you remember?
Safety is no accident.
Ah, very good.
And I didn't invent it. I heard it somewhere else. I'll be honest with you.
So yeah, I was just saying, did you invent that?
No.
Now, safety is always a big. I'm sure you've heard, or you get chided with all the like Simpsons references for safety.
Oh yeah, but safety was a big deal out there.
Indeed.
We went through safety training all the time. There were certain things you couldn't do. You couldn't operate a forklift unless you had a certain level of training. Even a hand truck, stuff like that, we had to be certified with and stuff. They were so picky about stairs. If you were going up a set of stairs or down a set of stairs, you better have your hand on the handrail. Somebody made a remark one time. They were leaving the sports arena where I went to college, and they said you could tell all the people that worked at Wolf Creek because they went straight to the handrails when they went down the steps going out, because it's just ingrained upon you. You don't go up and down stairs without your hand on the rail. Stuff like that. It's just, we didn't want anybody hurt. So
yeah.
You knew what the rules were. If you saw somebody on a ladder and they were on those top two steps, it's like, you're not supposed to be on those steps. Go get a bigger ladder if you need to be that high. And we would hold them to it. If somebody was not wearing their hard hat where hard hats were required, well, we would simply say, hey, you need to get your hard hat. And sometimes they'd thank you because they just totally forgot and stuff.
Right.
But basically, we wanted everybody to be safe. So the way they stressed it to us at Wolf Creek, they said everybody's responsible for everybody else's safety out here. It's not like you're a snitch or anything else, but we want everybody to go home just like they came here.
Yeah, that's a good working environment when everyone
Right.
can just point out those little things, and it doesn't become a threat or just that sort of snippiness. It
Yeah.
really is you're looking for out for everybody else.
Yeah. I think we all understood that.
And it's a big contrast to that photo and the one below it, which is quite a few years later by my visual guess.
That bottom photo,
Yeah.
that was actually my last day at work. That was on December the 15th, 2022.
Oh, wow. Who are the other guys with you there?
Okay, that on the far left was Drew, the intern, and then that was the guy on the left in the picture next to me. Can't really remember his name at all. The guy in the black shirt is Bill. Bill, one of my better friends. In fact, I'm still in contact with Bill. He's a good friend. So after a while, you work with a crew for a number of years and stuff like that. You get to be friends and stuff like that. You get to know these people real well. The two people on the other side, I had only known a few months prior to my retirement. And by the way, none of those people are there anymore.
Oh, okay. How's the plant going? They didn't close it down, did they?
Oh, no.
It's still there. Right.
It's still there. It got the first license, I believe, was 25-year license, I believe. So it would have been through 2010. It's gotten extended at least once. So you have to apply to the NRC for that because, the normal design for the plant is a certain number of years or for any nuclear plant. So for them to extend that, they have to go in and make sure that you've maintained it. The engineering's good. You've replaced what needs to be replaced. They go in and test the structures and everything else. And so it got extended. So hopefully it'll be there for quite a few years.
Well, I hope so. We need more of them. And the reason I have to ask is because I've lived in 2 states where they've shut down the nuclear reactors stupidly. Not because there was any accidents, just because of, the popular fear that's been mongered by quote unquote environmentalists about the dangers of nuclear power. So, yeah.
Knowing what I know about the industry, it's just about one of the safest things out there.
It's just so hard.
The public perception is totally warped on it compared to the environmental impact of a lot of other ways of power generation. And, you hear people pushing solar and you hear people pushing wind power. They don't tell you what all you have to do just to put those windmills in just so you can produce wind power. And then the maintenance and everything else.
Plus all the birds that get killed every week by those
the environmental impact of solar, and stuff like that too.
Oh,
It's clean power. Well, no, it's not really. So, to me, and I'm a big advocate for nuclear power because I've lived that life, I still to this day live less than 5 miles from that reactor, and I consider myself completely safe.
Yeah. So I'm more power to you, man. I really appreciate the work that you did over the years in helping our power grid by working at that facility. But I'm mindful of our time since I only asked you to be on here for half an hour, and so I want to wrap things up. And I'd love to talk about this more. Maybe it's some other time. And we didn't even get into your new channel. Do you want to give that a plug right now before we get into the contest section for tonight? You got a new channel out there, Boomer Reviews, right? Or Boomer Listens, sorry.
Boomer Listens, yeah. I've been doing it a little over a month now. It's basically, there are a lot of YouTube channels out there that are basically people reacting to music they're not familiar with. Usually it's younger people reacting to music of the past that they've never been exposed to. And so I flipped the script on that. I am an older American senior citizen boomer, if you want to use that word. That's why I threw that on the channel, that is reacting to music from the past few years that I'm not familiar with. So envision the crotchety old grandpa listening to kids and the kids nowadays, the music's no good, but I don't do it that way. I have an appreciation for all kinds of music. So I will tell you what I like and what I don't like, but I will give you my honest reaction and be honest with you. There's a lot of good music being put out today that I wasn't aware of. So I'm having a lot of fun with this journey because I'm learning things.
That's great. What's your just a quick take here? Well, what's your favorite new song that you listened to in the last week or two?
Favorite new song that I've listened to. I don't know about songs in particular. Some of the artists though that I've been exposed to, Benson Boone, for example, great artist. Noah Kahan, spectacular. And I've been exposed to Sabrina Carpenter for the first time this last week.
Wow. Okay.
Billie Eilish, you know. So a lot of newer people out there producing some pretty good music. I mean, some of it might not be the kind of stuff I grew up with, but some great talent out there. And I'd just say the youth of today have got quite a bit to choose from.
Yeah, indeed. Almost too much in a way.
Almost too much. So I'm having to keep myself abreast of the Billboard Hot 100 so I know what kids are listening to. Plus, I rely on my friends, you know, people on my channel. I tell them at the end of every video, if you want to suggest something for me to listen to, throw it in the comments. I'll give it a shot.
Absolutely. I posted up your link on the side chat. So everybody out there, please copy, paste that link into your tab in your browser right now and hit that subscribe button for Gary.
I appreciate that.
No worries. So, Gary, let's give away some stuff.
That sounds good.
Okay, so let's get into it here. I just want to give the one final clue to our mystery word that you guys can win one of 3 Kiesler scope and binocular claws. So, helmed by legendary or sometimes known as notorious CEO Jack Welch, this company was one of the most profitable corporations in the 90s. This company has electric in the name, as I mentioned, but for this contest, just enter this company's 2-letter initials on the side chat right now, and we will be drawing the winner. I'm just going to give you a couple of just a minute or two. And in the interim, I also wanted to let you know that I have 2 contests going on my channel right now. One is for a set of these Pro Hear electronic earmuffs, which I think are great. I was using them just this weekend. They look very much like Howard Lights, but they are not just a straight up rip off of them because I've been using Howard Lights for quite a few years now. Which ear pro do you use at the range, by the way, Gary?
I have been using primarily Howard Lights.
Yeah,
but mine finally quit.
Oh, well, hopefully, enter the contest or look into these Pro Hears. If you like the Howard Lights in terms of the sound profile, which I do, and in terms of the comfort level, I think these are actually a little bit, you can crank these up just a little bit louder than the Howard Lights.
I did buy a new set of walkers, but I haven't tried them out yet.
Oh, okay. Which one did you get? Did you get the Razors or did you get the
Razors
one?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I had borrowed a friend's one time because I forgot to take my ear pro to SHOT Show, and they lent me their Razors, and they were all right. I mean, I will say I do prefer the Howard Lights. Mine just finally broke. I had owned them for a number of years, and I think I just wore them out.
You know, the I like the Razors, the Walker Razors, a little bit more for how they fit on my head, but I don't like the fact that you don't get stereo sound with the Walker Razors. So that was a deal breaker for me. It was the reason why I still stick with the Howard Lights, or at least now with the Pro Hears. So you might want to check that out because the Pro Hears are a little bit cheaper than the Howard Lights. So, but
doesn't hurt to have more than one.
This is true. Very true.
Yeah, you could take a friend to the range. You need a second step.
Yeah, everyone should take a friend to the range at least once a
Mhm.
year, once a month, because we need more people out there learning to shoot safely. So anyway, you can enter this contest to win a set of these Pro Hears, and I will be drawing the winner at the end of this month. Let me just type out the link to the contest page for that. And of course, you could always go to moondogindustries.com/contest. I'll list all of the current contests that are going on. Since there's two contests I have going on, I put both of those contests onto that contest page, and there's individual sub pages that have the actual entry form for the contest. So in this case, I'm doing the Pro here, and I'm giving away an easy shoot 1-6 LPVO. And again, you can go to moondogindustries.com/contest. The qualifications for that, it's free to enter. All you have to do is subscribe to Moondog Go, my travel channel, and upload proof that you have. You can use the same screenshot for both contests, but you do have to enter each of the contests separately, just so I know who's interested in what. So let's get to the drawing today. Let me just bring up that page. So your last chance to enter the drawing, and we'll see, add this to the stage. Why is it not showing up onto the stage? Oh, there we go. So we have 11 entries today, and just give me a countdown, Gary, and I will hit that draw button.
Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, draw.
There we go.
Good luck.
So for the first Kiesler scope cloth goes to 1957 Porsche Speedster. Very nice. And that is a beautiful car, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's draw again. You want to just, you want to do a countdown, or should I just hit the draw button?
Let's start at 4 this time.
Okay.
4, 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. So the second one goes to Kanaidon. Congratulations.
Nice.
And the third and final one, give it a countdown, Gary.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
And this one's going to Pick. He's been a multiple winner in the last couple of weeks, so congratulations.
Nice.
All right, so I'll be sending out one of these to each of you guys. Just for everybody who did win, please send me an email with the hashtag GE in the subject line, just so I could find you easier. And I will be typing in my email address. And this is a rule: you do have to send me an email saying that you do want to win. Even if you won last week, and that I must have your address. Just it is a condition of the contest. So send me an email, hashtag GE, to that email address, and I'll send it out this week. And Gary, is there any other things you'd like to plug that you're working on? What are you working on this week?
Besides my music channel, of course, I've got the regular stuff I do on my Gizzard Gary channel. I have a flashlight and a pocket knife to review this week. Plus, I have my members only live stream is tonight at 8:30 from my channel members, and of course, my weekly live stream that I do every Monday. At
Foul Territory.
Yeah, Foul Territory. Yeah, we'd love to have everybody there. So come on by. Love to see you on all my channels and stuff like that. I appreciate each and every one of you.
Excellent. Yeah, I caught a little bit of that on the drive over to the range on Monday night. We have a monthly board meeting, and that's how I happened to just put my my phone, and I'll just hit play on YouTube and whatever, and listen to it while I'm driving. And I caught a little bit of the Foul Territory. You guys were having fun.
Yeah, hopefully it wasn't too horrible.
It was great. It was fine. So everybody tune in to Gizzard Gary. He's got 3 channels now. Hit like and subscribe to that, and of course hit like and subscribe to this show. And again, Don't forget to take advantage of the free 14-day free trial from Aura at aura.com/moondog, and let me know how that works out for you. So thanks again, Gary, for being my guest. It was a real pleasure and a very informative segment. The information about how it was to work at a nuclear power plant is just really, really educational. And I hope everybody else enjoyed it as much as I did.
Oh, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it too.
Excellent. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. God bless. And we'll see you hopefully next week. All right. Moondog out. Hey, I'd like to know what you thought of this video. Leave me a comment or chat with me on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, MeWe, Instagram, or Locals. And if you want to see all of my videos, go to moondogindustries.com.